Hello everyone and welcome back to my interview series. I'm joined by head coach of the Ultimates, ChrisTFer, to talk everything Stage 2, their preparations and their quest for qualification to the Esports World Cup. But before we get into all that, Chris, we need to talk about Stage 1, because finished third in the end, which maybe doesn't feel like the worst result, just out of the qualification positions for the major. But how do you look back at Stage 1 now in terms of success, failure, what went wrong?
I think it was ultimately like a pretty big failure. Obviously, we almost made it. Like we almost made some sort of slingshot-esque turnaround. But I think we also, if we look at everything objectively, we also high rolled a pretty good meta for us, and one that was actually not good for a lot of the teams. Like even Alcad and VP were probably not happy to see the Amalgam mirror, but they still ended up doing better than us. So I think there's almost no way, even for the most experienced cope masters, even the spin doctors or whatever, there's no way to spin a cope out of this situation.
Science hasn't gone that far yet, unfortunately.
No, yeah, no.
What have you learnt about the team since Stage 1? Because quite a few new players, I guess, or players you've not worked with as much. What do you know about the team and some of the players you still have now and that you didn't at the start of the year?
I think the vibe on this team is much different to how it has always been in the past. I think it's maybe a team that still to this day lacks like a real leader. Like I think a lot of if you think about our time together and stuff, there would always be, when there was bad days, there was like a coming together, oh come on guys, let's go. Whereas I think as a team, in a way, our team is less emotional than London. Like London, we obviously had really emotional moments where we could get pretty high or pretty low, whereas this team is quite professional in that regard. But I think what does happen is if things are going too well in scrims, then I think people are too quick to shut off, and it's difficult for someone within the team to bring them back. And then the same happens when we're losing scrims. I think you can often see the first three maps, yesterday we had a scrim, the first three maps are all really good. And then if they're good and you win, the last three are going to be terrible. And if you still lose them, then the last three are going to be terrible. It's kind of like pushes over
it's
that.
Lose-lose.
I think as a practice team, I think it's not as good as the ones previously. But I also think it comes with everyone's quite mature in a way, Like nobody's just fucking crying and throwing toys around and doing all the shit that we used to have, So it's different in a way.
Different better, different worse.
And I think the more difficult thing is it's slightly I don't know, when we're if you join the Discord 10 minutes late, I always try to join before VOD review, right? There's the
bit
chat
hangout,
Yeah. The chat is always shit on this team, that's the thing, Whereas on SSG and stuff, so you get someone in and we have a bit chat, VOD review get delayed because there's some sort of insane political discussion going on or something, Whereas this team, it feels like we need a few beers to get going,
Yes. So the solution is a few beers.
It was not that we would ever do that, of course, but yes.
What we would do in this situation normally is probably sign someone like Smex or something. So maybe that's
that's what we need. We need a social lubricant on our team, and then we're good to go, I
want to talk to you about the changes as well, because a couple of changes, but actually a quite dramatic change in terms of the roster. Roster's gotten a bit smaller, and you traded 2 tanks out for 1 tank in HeeSung. So what happened there? How much of this was a decision you always wanted to make, or was some of it almost timeline motivated? Was KSA going to leave for TM either way, or was it a reaction, or was it?
I don't know. I honestly, mate, I saw KSA to TM writing on the wall fucking months ago. The second KSA and UB rebuilt that bridge, It was always happening, but I was told it wasn't going to happen. I don't know, the KSA situation, I don't know, it was I don't know exactly how it went. We didn't fully kick him. He didn't fully leave. I don't know. It was just a bit weird where a lot of the stuff was happening even without me knowing, discussions with you. So I don't know, it was what it was. I've been pretty 5-man roster build as it goes. So I think it's possible if Casey wanted to stay that we might have stayed and we might have tried to make it work. But I'm also like, I'm fine with a 5-man roster. I think what happened last year where Chase would come in and the bands, they would get to save all the good bands for Chase. So his maps were just always absolutely fucked. That doesn't happen in the 5-man roster. Sometimes we're getting Anna bans on like map 1, and then all of a sudden, boom, like Anna's open for the series, whereas before it would only be when Twilight comes in. So yeah.
How has it been? Is HeeSung out in Riyadh or somewhere in EMEA already?
Yeah, him and Twilight are in our facility in Saudi.
And what's it been working with him in terms of like how good is his first mixed team, I think? So how good is his English and what sort of personalities he brings to the team?
I mean, he's like, I don't know. You learn a lot about him. Like when when you had that first week, that nice little honeymoon week, I think it looks really good. I think he's exactly what you'd expect. I think he's young, he's quite passionate, he's quite funny with the way he comes and stuff in game, which I think our team needs. Like all the stuff I said, it really, really needs a HeeSung just to go, Shibal, when he fucking jumps into 5 of them when we say to Kite, Kite, the only he fucking just jumps in. Shibal is good, like it lightens the mood. Like his English, it's like, it's fine. Like his talking is fine. I think it's the hearing which is the difficult thing. I think with a language, it's like Overwatch doesn't actually need that much English to communicate. You just need to know the hero names and a little pushy, a little back, a little left, a little right. But it's, I think, where we have right now is there's clear like synergy issues in terms of him and Kevin, in terms of like their ability to like, how we would always talk about in London, like when we were playing dive to like an unbelievable level on London,
yeah. The good day. The glory years that we refer to them as normally.
When we were setting the world alight, like you kind of need to have like a private Discord call within your Discord call. Like your frontline needs to be able to like talk to each other whilst the backline are also talking, and like you need to be able to zone out each other's voices and turn them up and down. We're struggling with that at the moment, I think. But my feeling is like the talent is all there. Like I can see for sure that his hero pool is one which, is really, really good for what this team needs. So yeah, for me, I think he will improve a lot over time. And I think like it's easier, I think, to teach someone to learn and understand English because it will just happen over playing, as opposed to it is to teach someone to be able to play Winston or whatever,
The other side of the changes was in the backline, where you also, I guess still technically 3 in the backline. You've removed Faith and added Scyle. The expectation here is Scyle is very much just emergency sub, just to fit the 6-person roster rule. Yeah. Why? Obviously, you had to cut one of the Koreans to fit HeeSung in. Why did you go for Faith, or how was that decision made?
Yeah, I guess somewhere we felt that Twilight's upside is an upside of being like the best in EMEA and one of the best in the world at what he's good at. So it feels like if you say, you want to work around like an Anna guy, and then you sign like a Korean main tank, all of a sudden it starts to make sense. Like the comps that we play, it starts to feel like our roster has an identity. Which is obviously kind of the opposite of what we went for last stage, right? Like I think we've done a lot of, I don't know what there's a word for it, but we've kind of correction course like the opposite direction quite a lot, instead of being like the jack of all trades, master of none. I think we are quite honed in on 1 or 2 styles and 1 or 2 comps while still having flexibility. At least I think in the tank line, DPS line, we have flexibility. I think it's like the support line where it's obviously that's like where the challenges are for us to make it work. But it felt somewhere that like we could have kept Faith, but then it would have been like, it would have been fine. I think it would have been simpler in a lot of ways, but then I don't think we would have had that like unique selling point that like takes you to first place,
Is Faith with you guys still as well?
So he's like helping as assistant coach this year. So he still comes to all the scrims and stuff. I think he's not, at least not yet in Saudi. I don't know if the plan is for him to get there at some point. And who knows what the plans are? I just show up and pretend to coach. But yeah, he obviously has the best English level of the Korean, so he's helping a lot with Sky's transition because obviously Sky needs to play like a lot more Brig and maybe a little bit of Lucio at times. So he helps with coaching that, and then obviously he can help HeeSung with a lot of the English, like translate what we say, and then kind of keep that little guy on the road to success, you know.
That's probably one of the big worries because we've seen some teams like Wei have success with playing almost exclusively double flex support, lots of Anakiri over in Korea. Was that a bit of an inspiration almost that it is possible and that you can still reach this, take maps and beat these top teams playing that type of comp almost exclusively?
So there's a few things. I think one, and it sounds stupid, but it's like if Crazy Raccoon came to Europe and you said to them, okay, you're going to play the entire season, but you're not allowed to pick Lucio a single time, every single person would agree they would still easily win, right? Like it wouldn't be a factor where they could. Now, I'm obviously not saying what Crazy Raccoons, but the point is that I think what I think is since perks came out, I think Blizzard are not patching the raw heroes in this game anymore. I think this is exactly what they did in Hearthstone. Once they introduced something similar to perks, they could just leave Anna as Anna and then just change the perks around. And it allows them to keep things fresh, to remove stuff, add stuff in without nuking heroes' kits. So my feeling is the game itself it's pretty balanced right now. Everything can more or less work. I think it stays like that. I think that the actual days, we'll see. I think fuck it. Why am I hedging my bets? Just say it with confidence. That's not normally what I do, you know. That's what losing one stage does to you, lose all your confidence, you know. I think the game itself is just going to stay the same. Like Winston is always just going to be pretty strong. Like Diva's always just going to be pretty strong. Like every hero, like almost every tank is going to be pretty viable, etc. So I don't see, unless a new hero comes out, a world in which it's like, oh, this is like fully like Lucio like needs to be meta, or this needs to be meta. I've always been a believer anyway, as you know, is if you create a style, you can always make it work. Like that's what we did, mate. That's what we did for years, you know. We never played meta. We always played to make it work. I don't think that like double flex stuff is out of the question. Plus, I think the fact that we can play Brig and then play Juno Brig or Anna Brig or whatever, it means that like worst case, there is like meta comps that are really fine for us as well, you know?
I guess the big worry really, it almost comes down less to what's available. Because when I think of when we saw a lot of the Winston success at Hangzhou, it was a big struggle for even teams like VP that dominated the region, and Alcatia maybe didn't even get that close to having too many shots at it. But one thing that always seems viable when the other teams are going to be very diva heavy, which is very much the case in EMEA, is the Brig swap is always really on for the backline. But on paper, Nat feels like it's going to be one of the hardest heroes for you to lean into. And all of a sudden, once you start doing that, whether it's Sky or Twilight, depending on the situation, it's not the same level as they would be on other heroes. How big of a focus is that for you in terms of trying to fix it?
For sure. If we could unlock Brig fully, then I think it would be perfect. And I think actually the progress we made, I think historically flex supports do pretty well on Brig. I think that people... I remember when Alarm picked up Brig for the first time on Fusion, he was just unbelievable at it immediately, you know? Like, I think you've seen it a few times where, like, in double flex, a lot of people have had to pick up Brig. So yes, I think what you're saying is true. But I don't think we're in a situation right now where we're dodging Brig at all. I think we feel okay with it. That will be, like, I think a lot of what our roster is I think we've had to step back and we are going to have to build up again. I think any expectations that we're immediately going to be world beaters is probably naive. We have to learn a new style. We have to learn new heroes. We have to learn to speak English. So we are going to have to take a lot of the season to improve. But I think somewhere there is like a team that at the end of it makes a lot of sense and has a ceiling that can win.
It feels like it's kind of almost like, and there's a gamble to it, but the payoff on paper, if it works, we saw the problems VP had in Hangzhou. If it works, it could slingshot you, for lack of a better word, all the way to the top almost. Like there's like a big variation maybe in how well you guys can do, but the actual payoff, if it all comes together, is really big.
No, I fully agree with you. And I think especially like you could imagine if we really pull it all together for playoffs with this map pool, you know, Dorado, Gibraltar, Ilios, fucking love Ilios, you know? Like Hollywood, you actually all of a sudden you have like a really good like map pool to be like a dive, double flexy type of team, you know? So yes, no, I think so. I really, really, really think so.
A lot of teams coming into this stage as well, it feels like everyone's had maybe a bit less practice and preparation than they normally do going into a stage. How much scrim time have you actually had before we go into the matches this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, in a dream scenario, we probably would have started a week or two earlier than we did. I think we've only been playing. I mean, what? It's like 9 plus 4 minus 1. 12, 11 days, something like that. Which isn't the end of the world. But again, like, I think one thing that we can attest to is that like the regular season itself isn't always the most important. It's playoffs. You know, you can finish 6th seed and still make a decent run of it. But I'm trying to slingshot again, but you know, we have a lot of time.
Is there much priority? Because you talk about regular season being a bit easier, but obviously last time around in stage 1, you did get through to playoffs, but you had to start in the lower bracket because came in as one of the lower seeds. Is it a big focus just trying to avoid that though, to get that second life when it comes to this?
I mean, I'm going to try to win every game, you know? Like, there is no like focus on like, yeah, let's actually win the regular season, you know? Little secret is I actually tried to win the regular season last season too, you know?
It was hard to tell at times, mate. Hard to tell.
Some of the narrative I've been spinning, but I actually was trying last season too. So I don't know, if we can, then obviously we will, and if we can't, then obviously we won't. I think the schedule is quite front loaded, so we have like a pretty bumper first week. But yes,
it's Alcad and TM if I remember right as well.
Genji on tomorrow, on Saturday, and then Alcad on the Sunday.
How do you feel going into? Because obviously, as well as you making a lot of changes, all the teams in EMEA seem to have upgraded to varying degrees, or at least all the major teams. How do you feel going into those that opening double?
Yeah, well, I think it's like 2 different teams, right? I think Genji, I expect, will actually end up going pretty mirrory, I think, across the series. I think we'll play a lot of that. Whereas Alcad, I think, obviously, there'll be very little mirroring, I suspect. So I don't know. I think we haven't scrimmed Alcad, so my feeling is like VP, their level should be pretty similar to what they were already playing at, which I think is a good level. My feeling from our scrims against Genji last week was Genji going through similar stuff to us, whereas I think they maybe have to take a step back to take a step forward type thing. So yeah, I don't know. I think both will be hopefully competitive. And then yeah, it just depends how the drafts go, you know, who wins the draft.
Well, you got 5-person roster now, so draft proof, right?
No, yeah, absolutely draft proof.
I need to ask you, of course, new hero is going to be available for stage 2. Freya's in. How much have you seen of her in scrim so far? How strong is she looking?
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see more billions of her, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think she's objectively strong for sure. I think she's like one of those like classic heroes. You know, Overwatch has tons of them now where it's like if the enemy doesn't play D.Va, she does absolute bits and bobs. But then once the enemy picks D.Va, then it feels like there's maybe better picks. She's probably like less totally dominant than the majority of new heroes that come out, I would say.
Like Kiriko Sojin, like
yeah. I mean, Hazard was everywhere for ages, you know. But objectively strong. I think you'll see more Freya than you will any other hit scan for sure this week. Really annoying. Just a classic Blizzard hero where let's just give it unlimited mobility, you know? Like, we don't know how to design a hero that isn't just unlimited. Like, just let them fly and dash. And her ult charges like once every 5 seconds.
Boost, yeah.
Yeah, she's objectively strong for sure. I think I'd be shocked if you don't see tons and tons of it.
I think you and most teams are leaning into the hit scan playing it as well. So how's Kai looking on the hero compared to some of the others you've seen?
I think he's really fine. Like, he started super, super strong on it. Like, Kai came in this season actually playing really well. So I think it's good. Yeah, I think it just for us it's just because we play against a lot of D.Va. I think it's like less. We end up playing against Freya a little bit more than we would play it sometimes. But I think that the level on most is really good. Shockwave yeah, I mean, he's got that shit on lock from day one and stuff. But I think Kai's really good at it too.
And then I need to put you to put your money where your mouth is. 3 spots at the Esports World Cup to qualify directly. Who's it going to be from EMEA?
I feel it's almost impossible to get away from the fact that I think VP look to be by far the best team. Obviously, every other team is roster changing, so every other team is trying to rebuild synergy and learn this and that. I think TM have started this season pretty strong, and I think if they maintain doing what they're doing, I think they will take it. And then I think the third team will for sure be the Ultimates in first place.
I was going to say, there was a moment there where I thought you were maybe going to forget your own team, but squeaked in there, yeah. All right.
Yeah, no problem.
And then last one, any message for the fans going into stage 2?
All right, stay strong, guys. Okay, stay strong. Like this is our season. Okay, if you've stayed true this whole time, then don't worry. We're just about to slingshot all the way to the top. Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate your time and best of luck for the weekend.
All right. Thank you.